Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation. And I'd also like to welcome Dr. Mansi Shah. Uh, she is a clinical integrative pharmacist and a holistic nutritionist. She's also, and she's licensed in the state of California and Nevada, and she also holds a doctorate degree in pharmacy. I apologize that I'm looking off to the side, but my printer happens to be broken, so I have my notes on another computer. So bear with me while I glance away from you. I asked Dr. Mansi to join us today because I have major concerns about pharmaceuticals based on my own medical experience. I was chronically ill for a decade. 9 of those years I was on full disability, and Dr. Mansi has the knowledge to share with us. And our topic is the 8 myths about pharmaceuticals that is killing America and keeping you sick. So welcome and thank you for joining me, Doctor.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to be talking about what I'm passionate about. And I also wanted to add that I'm a certified functional practitioner now because I wanted to take a different route. So I started with the holistic nutrition route and then I wanted more. So when I got myself certified as a practitioner. So at this point, I feel like I have a good knowledge about both the areas of like Eastern, Western medicine and what we could do for people's health.
Yes. Okay. You set out in the beginning to get your PhD in pharmacy, and back then, what were your plans for your career?
Honestly, I got into this because I lost my godfather, and I'm very passionate about keeping other people's loved ones around because he was such a big role model in my life, and he lost his life to lifestyle diseases. So it was very unfortunate to see that happen, and that was my purpose. So, um, circling back to your question, I wanted to do something significant in the area of helping people stay healthy. And I thought if I could understand what real health means and if drugs are really helping or how I can save interactions or manage better side effects and all of that. So I had to go through almost 8 years of formal schooling because 4 years of bachelor's in pharmacy and then doctorate. So that was my plan. I wanted to open like a very futuristic type of pharmacy that was not just like pharmaceutical based. Like it was more of like, how we used to have it in old school where there would be herbs and plant medicine and other modalities of healing. That was my whole goal of having that in place, which I pretty much did. So I did accomplish my mission.
Excellent, excellent. And I know you and I hadn't covered this previously, but I've heard that the Creator put a cure for every illness on this earth. Is that something that you can believe?
Yeah. Your body is so magical. It just wants to be healthy, right? So the cure is actually inside because the body knows what to do. We just have to support it with the right substance. And it is, I would say plant medicine is huge when it comes to that.
Okay, great. All right. So let's get into the topics that we decided that we would discuss today. What is a clinical integrative pharmacist?
I would say it's more of someone who is patient centric and we have the knowledge of clinicals and we know how to break down studies and labs, look at labs. But when it comes to integrative pharmacist is someone who's looking more at a wholesome way of looking at a patient where what is their lifestyle, what are their emotions, what are they eating, and what is their trauma that they're dealing with, and then of course like combining, so being open to a whole approach of integrating different modalities and being patient centric.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I know that the trauma can often be a big part of it, because in my practice, we work with trauma a lot. Those stuck emotions keep a person in fight or flight. And of course, we know that depletes the immune system, and eventually the body will break down. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, the work you're doing, Teresa, is phenomenal because people don't realize how much of a role it plays in their health. It's, I would say, like 70% is that, and 30% is other things. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. And again, that is based on my own personal experience, having been traumatized at a very early age, and then eventually all of that stuck emotion that was never managed and dealt with manifested into a chronic health condition, which landed me on disability. Okay, great. Well, your work, I honor your work as well. And so, my next question for you was, why have you chosen this path as opposed to traditional pharmacy path? But I think you already answered that, talking about your godfather. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to add was when I graduated and I was walking down the aisle, I was like, what did I just do for a decade? Like, I don't think I want to practice this at all. I was not very excited. But at least I had something substantial that could make me income to stay afloat, because let's be realistic, we all have bills to pay. So that was my realization that I need more. And it was not a residency, it was not a fellowship in a big pharma, but it was something more of a practitioner base.
Yes, and it does, it does give you authority, because you now hold that title. So it proves that you've done the study. So that always pays off as well. Don't
Absolutely.
you? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm sorry. Did you have something you wanted to add?
But our country gets us by licensing. So the degree means nothing if you don't have licenses. And that's where a lot of people struggle, because college is easier, and then sometimes the tests are much harder at the end. So
I see.
yeah, it's very stressful. So anybody, when you see them with these degrees, they have worked so hard. They've been committed. Like, I respect them when they get their licenses, because I know what it is to be through that.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, very hard. Like, California test is almost like a test for like MD, I feel, because they want us to even know diagnosis, and they don't really stress that much on in school on diagnosis. For pharmacists, we are more so on the management of drugs and side effects and clinicals and dosages, right? But then you come to the test, they ask you about diagnosis too, and you're thrown off. So it's quite a bit of a hard work.
So you hold a license in 2 states, and that would be California and Nevada, and that is in holistic nutrition. Is that correct?
No, that is in PharmD. So to practice as a pharmacist, holistic nutrition is a course, a certification course.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I asked that, because that's really important information for us to have.
Absolutely.
So you know your drugs, don't you?
Oh my God, I know them so well. I know what a big of a devil it is.
Okay, so let's get into that. So, what is one of your biggest concerns about prescription use in America?
I would say my biggest concern that I've seen is it being advertised so freely on radio, TV. You start a YouTube channel and start watching something, every other ad is a drug ad, and it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Like, the usage of drugs and evaluation of what is right for the patient or not should be solely in the hands of practitioners who've done extensive studies on it. So it should be MD, PharmD, NPs, PAs, like people who have done this, not like being advertised. And then it's reversed because people go and tell their practitioners what they want. That's scary.
Yes. Yes.
That's my
So
biggest concern.
yeah, so I'd like to give some input on that. Mainstream media bombards us with negativity 24/7. One of my big pet peeves is the news is literally pushed in our face pretty much everywhere. You go to the airport, the televisions, the news is on, and even though you can't hear it, they've got the closed caption on. You go to the gym, the news is on there. And I talked to the director at one of our gyms and our fitness center, and she said she's required, to have CNN on one TV and Fox on the other. And then you go, and then you go into a restaurant, and there's a television over the bar. And if you watch carefully and you really pay attention, what you'll see is that the media is constantly stressing you, telling you about all the dangers out there in the world. And then on the commercial break, they're telling you, how you can relieve your anxiety with pharmaceuticals. So
yeah, pretty much. They realize, starting from the church culture, that to brainwash it's not enough. So then now we gotta do the radio and the media, because when they're going home, they could actually go back into a different state, right? So it has to be continued. Like brainwashing has to be continued all day for people to start believing something's true.
Right. And that's something that I talk about in my practice is if we took our inmates, our prisoners, and we strapped them in a chair and forced them to watch the news 24/7, that would be considered cruel and unusual punishment. However, most people do that to themselves without even realizing the damage that it's doing to their immune system. And in one of the previous conversations that you and I had, you talked to me about how in other countries advertising pharmaceuticals is illegal. Could you speak on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm from India, and I've done my undergrad there, so I understand the laws there. I had to take my test for that, right? And it's banned, like it is illegal. We had one time, I remember there was a Benadryl ad, and the I don't know how it even got through, but they were charged a big fine, and then it never came back. But Europe, I would say Middle East, like India. I'm not sure about China because I haven't watched TV there that much, but I know for a fact that at least in my country, which is 1.4 billion people, which is a huge amount of people, we are not bombarded with any pharmaceutical ads because it's illegal to do that by law.
That's fascinating. I remember when the pharmaceutical industry was trying to get advertising legalized, and now you can't pick up a magazine or, as we discussed, watch TV without seeing a pharmaceutical ad. And they're also being promoted by, I guess you could call them authority figures. So, sports figures who have joint issues, and take this drug. So yeah, that's a real pet peeve of mine, but let's move on and because we have more questions here. Okay. So do you believe that Western medicine is a profit-based business that is driven by the pharmaceutical industry?
I would say it is an extreme profit-based business, not just profit. What they do is they find molecules that are resembling to natural molecules, and natural molecules are not patentable. So then they create an inorganic molecule in lab that looks like that molecule, but it is not the natural molecule. Body is so intelligent. Body knows that as soon as you put a plant medicine versus inorganic lab made chemical, the body knows. So what it does is circling back to the patent of it. So they go ahead and patent the inorganic molecule. What happens is that they spend millions to make billions, but then now these molecules in the body, they create a havoc because body considers it as foreign molecule.
I see. So I've been told that a perfect example of that is Valerian Root. The pharmaceutical industry has taken Valerian Root and made it into a molecule that you're speaking of, and it's marketed as Valium. Is that correct? That would be one of the examples of what you're talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, or you could say red yeast rice versus statin.
Oh,
so,
great. Okay, statins.
Or yams versus birth control. So, there's natural substances that could do what our body wants to. Like, if we have something that we want to achieve, we have natural substances do that. Right. But that's, I would say, minimal side effects. I mean, sometimes there's side effects to natural substances too if you overdo it, right? Everything. But then here, it's guaranteed side effects. That's what it is.
Right. Okay. All right. And then oftentimes physicians will then give you another pharmaceutical to counteract the side effects of the first pharmaceutical.
Absolutely. Yes. Like, I'll tell you, I see that all the time. Somebody gets a medication for, like, let's say pain, and then now they have constipation.
Right.
And then they get the constipation thing, and then now they have diarrhea, and then they have like IBS after that, and then they have like plethora of stomach problems, and there was a couple other drugs added for stomach problems now, like PPIs, and now this person went from one thing to like 7-8 meds. Right. And people don't even realize because they're like so wired. They just want a quick fix. They just want to get back to work. They have bills to pay. They're not even thinking what's going on.
Yeah. So my experience with that is, I'm the youngest of 6 children. So my parents were older. And when my mother was a little girl, we didn't have antibiotics. So then here comes this miracle drug, and all of a sudden doctors are able to cure infections that people formerly would have died from. And so here's this miracle drug. And so we've become a society that we want that quick fix. We want that miracle drug. I've had conversations with physicians who have told me when patients come in, if they don't give them a drug, the patients almost demand it. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I think some physicians hand out medications too quickly, and I think some patients are too eager to take them. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Not every physician wants the right prescription, but patients get mad. They start yelling. Like healthcare abuse is real. Patients, they get mad if they don't get what they want. And hey, we already have stress. We have student loans, we have bills to pay, we have long hour days. So people just do what other people want at times. And I would say most of the times that happens. So I've seen that over and over. Like, it's not new that we get abused a lot. That's true.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see what we have next here. I would like to share my personal story about my chemical cocktail. So when I was chronically ill, I had chronic fatigue syndrome. I've been recovered for 20 years. So this was a very long time ago. They were still doing a lot of research. I participated at one of the research centers government-funded research centers at the University of Medicine and Dentistry in Newark. And what ended up happening is they were giving me pharmaceuticals for pain. They were giving me activating antidepressants to give me energy during the daytime. And then I was taking sedating antidepressants at nighttime to help me to sleep. And, there were a whole host of other drugs. And one day I kind of had an emotional breakdown, and someone who cared about me very much said, you need to get off those drugs. You're not you. They're really affecting your personality. And that was like my big wake up call. And so I weaned myself off those drugs and decided to start fresh. At that point in my illness, I couldn't determine the side effects of the drugs and the real symptoms of my condition. And I just want to say here, and I know that you'll agree with this, if anyone is thinking about doing that, make sure you do your research. Some drugs you just can't abruptly stop taking. So please, anyone that's listening to this, don't just stop taking your pharmaceuticals. So can you tell us a little bit more about these chemical cocktails? Like I was on a chemical cocktail. Can you tell us any more about those chemical cocktails and what you think people should know?
Well, they're really dangerous because people don't understand the side effects coming from it. And I'm going to grab some water.
Okay, take your time.
I got dry throat. Sorry about that.
That's fine. It happens to all of us.
Well, I was traveling, so I've been kind of dealing with some sore throat. But let's be honest that chemical cocktails, it just sounds dangerous, right? They're tweaking so many receptors and causing so many side effects that the person doesn't even look the same. They like you said, you were not yourself,
No, I wasn't. I literally had an emotional meltdown, which is, was just completely out of character for me. And luckily I had someone, who cared about me that noticed it.
Well, I see a lot of multi-organ failure from it, and
oh my gosh,
falls, and people never recover because the fall is so bad, especially for elderly. So I think, government's taking measures now because they're very very strict on what chemical cocktails are allowed now. There is all these guidelines, but people are just so used to it because they've taken it for such a long time that they just can't do without it at a certain point.
Yeah,
that's also a big issue.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, you probably could tell us about this statistic. I don't really know exactly, but I think most people over 60, what's the average amount of pharmaceuticals that they are prescribed? Do you know what that number is?
I don't know the accurate number, but from what I've seen in my practice, about 5 to 10.
Okay. That's what I've seen as well. 5 to 10. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, we make such a big deal out of everything's going on right now, but think about the prescription related deaths in our country. How many people go through adverse effects? 2 million people go through adverse effects from drugs. How many end up in the hospital? 800,000. How many end up dead? 400,000. Now that makes it the fourth leading death cause in our country.
Okay, so those statistics that you just told us, they are in the United States?
Well, it's Europe and United States combined.
Okay, and is that per year?
Mm-hmm. That is per year.
Okay, so 800,000 have adverse effects, side effects to pharmaceuticals, and 400,000
Die, yeah. So
die.
2 million, over 2 million experience it. 800,000 end up in the hospital from it.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Those numbers are
Alarming.
yeah, they're frightening. So people really need to be aware.
Now, mind you, that is only what they have reported.
Right.
Some people don't even know they died from a drug interaction.
Right. And so, and this question is right up your alley. And so, what are the most prescribed drugs that could be avoided by lifestyle changes?
That's my work all day. Heart disease, cholesterol, blood pressure, thyroid, like diabetes is a big one. Right now we're dealing with a real pandemic is diabetes. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
1 in 7 is diabetic. 1 in 3 is pre-diabetic.
Yes, and I have a good friend of mine who has been diabetic for quite some time, and he gets treated at the VA hospital. And first of all, the prescription that they put him on was the cost on that was $2,000 a month, but the VA hospital picked up that charge for him. But now his kidneys are failing, so he's having to go on dialysis because of the side effects of the drugs.
Yeah, that is a very common side effect that I've seen from diabetes drugs, and kidney fails, heart fails. I feel that unfortunately the truth is that drugs kill more people than actual disease.
Oh my gosh. Would you repeat that one more time, please?
Drugs kill more people than actual disease.
Okay, that's just heartbreaking. I want to address one of the comments. Veronica. Hi, Veronica. It's good to see you here. Yes, you will be able to go back on LinkedIn and replay this. We have not talked about antidepressants. You just typed in antidepressants. Did you have a specific question about antidepressants, Veronica? And I know, what I tell my clients, and first and foremost, I, let them know that I am not a doctor and I don't pretend to be one. However, it is my opinion that sometimes when those serotonin levels get too low, an antidepressant can be warranted till we can bring that serotonin level back up. But it's my personal opinion that antidepressants are not meant for long-term use. What's your opinion on that?
Absolutely. I do have a couple that I support as antidepressants because there's rough phases that people go through. And I would say about good 3 months is good time to bring someone back up. And I would also supplement them with 5-HTP at the same time. So that way we can wean them off an antidepressant quicker. And then I evaluate them all the time. I want to go with something with least side effects and most benefits and stuff like that. So they come handy for a couple months when someone's going through an extreme rough phase, but they're not more than, I wouldn't say any usage more than 6 months is safe after that.
Okay, very good. And there was another thought that popped into my head about that. So we also know that exercise can help raise serotonin levels. sunshine, vitamin D, right? These are all natural things that
Absolutely.
we can do. And you're right. We all get depressed. We all go through ups and downs. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you choose to look at it, life is more like a roller coaster than, a straight flat highway going through the state of Nevada.
Right. Everybody goes through it, you know. I always say that, hey, either you're crying in a Honda or crying in Lamborghini, but everyone's going through stuff that they have to deal with, you know.
Right. We all have our stuff. Yeah. We
Money doesn't solve a lot of problems that people have.
no. And like a perfect example that you brought up earlier was the loss of your godfather, right? So yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. You'd be surprised, since we're talking about this. I was in Beverly Hills practicing, and at one of the big box, and like all our fast movers and the most filled prescriptions were antidepressants in Beverly Hills. Like, okay, you live in the best neighborhood in the world, and you have all the money and you have all the talent, and you still are depressed.
Yeah. You're not happy. Yeah. Happiness really is a choice. And, but we could spend a whole another session
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about that. And I would love to have another conversation with you, but I want to be respectful of your time because I know you're a very busy woman. So in closing, what is the most important thing that you would like to leave our audience with today?
I would say, we get bombarded with so much information, but you yourself, you are the most intelligent creature that like as a human on earth, you're so intelligent. Do your own due diligence. Your body is your temple. Why don't you ask why? Like, a lot of people don't ask anything when they get prescribed anything. Just ask, why do you want me to be on this? What is the efficacy on it? What is the safety on it? Like, what are the major side effects? Is there a black box warning? Like, just educate yourself a little bit, not like too much. I'm not saying get a PhD, but ask some relevant questions and then go from it. Like, if it makes sense, then yeah. Otherwise, like, you gotta figure out there's a better way out there, and you need to find out what that is.
So you mentioned something there that I don't know what it is, and I'm betting a lot of our listeners don't know either. What is a black box?
So black box warning is given to a drug when there is side effects have gone over a certain percentage and the deaths have been over a certain numbers, and they have, like, any drug, it has its phases, like phase 1 through phase 5, and post marketing is the data is collected to figure out if this drug is actually really safe in masses or not. And a black box warning is pretty much saying, be cautious, blacklisted drug.
I see. Okay. And so from my experience, especially if someone is dealing with multiple physicians, let's say they have their family physician, and let's say they also have someone an orthopedic surgeon, maybe they're going for surgery. I always found that my pharmacist is a great source, a wealth of information. So, and that's something we didn't talk about today was drug interaction. But that's something that I recommend my clients, check with always check with your pharmacist. And I think the computers are set up to pick up on that. But, I personally, I wouldn't count on that. Now, back in the day, again, I've been recovered for over 20 years and then I was sick for 10 years. So, 30 years ago, we did not have the internet, so I couldn't just Google my drug. So I invested in a PDR,
Oh,
physician. Yeah, well, I had friends that worked for Bristol Myers Squibb, so I could get, I could get one, and that's that huge book, that has all the drugs in it, and
right.
and when I was handed a prescription, I would read up on it, and then I would try to make an informed decision. I also what I recommend to my clients is if one doctor prescribes you a drug and you happen to know another doctor or even a dentist or a chiropractor, check with them. Ask them. They have a wealth of knowledge, as well as the pharmacists, as I mentioned. Pharmacists.
Absolutely. You cannot beat a pharmacist's knowledge on drugs. And I would suggest run it by a couple people, like, don't just blindly believe in the system, because isn't it scary that Tylenol is given out in 500 and 1,000 count at Costco? Tylenol can kill someone. I lost a patient to Tylenol toxicity when I was doing my clinicals, and she died because she was drinking and then taking Tylenol. Died in 3 days of doing that.
Yeah, so that's something that these over-the-counter drugs, and that's a topic that we didn't touch on today. But again, you'll come back and we'll talk more. Read the bottle. Please read the bottle. I have a pharmacist who I respect and admire, and he told me many, many years ago, no alcohol within 48 hours of either side of taking Tylenol. So if you drink wine, you can't take Tylenol for 48 hours. And then if you take Tylenol, you can't drink wine for another 48 hours. I happen to remember when that story hit the news that man died because he drank and took Tylenol. But a lot of people don't know that because they don't read the bottle. So even though it's an over-the-counter drug, please do your homework and read the label, right?
Absolutely. Just because it's available in bulk doesn't mean it's safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I am so appreciative of your time today, and I hope that maybe we will save some lives.
Yes, absolutely. If today's session could even save a couple, our mission is accomplished, right? We're here with a purpose, and we're going to keep doing what we are here for.
Yeah. So before we close, could you tell people where they can get more information about you?
Absolutely. So they can find me on LinkedIn through my LinkedIn profile. It's dr.mansi, MANSI, or email me on, I'll just leave my website, functionalwellnessnetwork.com, and the contact me page is on the bottom.
Okay, functionalmedicinenetwork.com.
Functional Wellness Network.
Functionalwellnessnetwork.com. Okay.
I don't know if it's readable. Functional Wellness Network.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we'll put that down in the comments as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And once again, thank you so much for being here with me today and sharing all of this valuable information.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, and you and I will talk again very soon.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Bye now.